Able to see him. Here's the pass. Oh, what a catch! Leaping into the air and pulling it down is T. Higgins. Burrow facing pressure. Goes over the top. Wide open is Chase. And he splits the defenders for the touchdown. The Cincinnati kid. Hubbard's got a convoy. Chased by Andrews. At the
30, the 20, he will score. Hooday, Bengal fans. He is Johnny Cash. No, he is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse, the heartbeat of our Cincinnati Bengals. Maan, you look like you just stepped out of Folsom Prison. You got the whole Johnny Cash thing, Ring of Fire going on over at the Abel Hassan's place. I love the Johnny Cash look. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan, dude. You got everything going right now, dude. I just see Johnny Cash in front of me.
This is a dark blue shirt. It's not black. You know, Jake, actually, my first concert ever was Johnny Cash. I was very young. I was only 7, so I don't really remember
jealous.
it. I didn't appreciate it because I was only 7, but it was at the West Virginia State Fair, and he was about this big because we were so far back. But, yeah, I could say I saw Johnny Cash in concert. Exciting week, man, to be a Bengal fan. That win was huge, made the week fun. It's been a busy time at work, and when your football team is good again, makes things a lot better.
Life is good, right? Life is it's just different. It's different when you just have that kind of swag that you're carrying around with you because of our Bengals. Maan, this is a big week. This is really, you like to think every week is a big week, but this just seems like the season in the balance type of a week, right? The Bengals win this football game. They go 3-3 into the bye week, a huge bye week because we have guys right now a little banged up. Joe Burrow gives him another week to get healthy. You come out of that bye week, and Maan, we talked about it. It is murder row, right? You got at San Francisco, the Bills at home, the Texans at home, who are playing very good football right now. And then you have to go to Baltimore. Mom, that is a tough stretch of games. And let's not downplay this Seattle Seahawks football team that we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Another very good football team. This just seems like kind of the season in the balance type of thing. Last year, they were 4-4 going into the bye. If they can be 3-3 going into the bye, Mon, it does. We talked about it on the show. It resets the whole season.
Absolutely. We did say that. Let's go in 3-3. It does reset the season. We have 12 games remaining after the Seahawks game. 7 of those 12 at Paycor Stadium. We mentioned that on the last episode. We got to play well. We do play well at our house, and having 7 of your last 12 at home is a plus. The Bengals we saw that offense really take off against the Cardinals. We loved it. 38-minute time of possession. It helped that young defense that has young players. You know, we have struggled on defense. It helped them tremendously because, let's face it, I think they only were on the field for 50 snaps. Compare that to the other games this season. That was welcome for them because, they got a little bit of rest. We flipped that script. We had the ball at 38 minutes. In our losses, it was the other way around, obviously. Let's continue that trend against a very good Seahawks team. You're absolutely right. Jake, if I'm not mistaken, when we did our season prediction show, when the schedule first came out, I think you had the Seahawks beating the Bengals in that.
I think I did too.
One of the few losses that you had the Bengals having this season. Seahawks made the playoffs last year. They have a very good roster. The Bengals are going to have to be ready to play Sunday at 1 o'clock.
They are. And I think I want to go back real quick. I think you meant 12 games, including the Seahawks game, because obviously after the Seahawks game, 11 games. But you're right.
You're right. 12 games remaining, 7 at home.
That's right. 12 games remaining, 7 at home and that's huge. I mean, if the Bengals can run, if they can just run the table at home, we're in the playoffs, right? So because they're going to win some of those road games. So this just seems like, man, I don't want to make it anything that it's not. But how can you not say this game is huge? I mean, it truly is huge, and not only is it big for the win-loss column thing, but going into the bye with a lot of momentum, 2 games in a row, Mom, that's called a win streak, something we haven't seen yet this year. And not only that, but if they do come out and they do play like they did last week, now this offense has got confidence, Mon. And I think that's something right now that we've been missing is the confidence in this offense. And if the Bengals come out and can put another 30 burger on the board, this offense could come out of the bye rolling.
Yeah, 67,000 people at Paycor Stadium Sunday is going to help tremendously also.
That's going to help.
It is going to help. Bengals.com, I read it about an hour ago. They mentioned, the Seahawks are like an AFC North team. They're the Ravens of the NFC. They run the ball. They limit possessions. They really do. They want the quarterback for the other team to be on the bench. So I don't want Joe Burrow to get 6 or 7 possessions Sunday. He needs to get up to that 10 or 11. If that happens, the Bengals are going to win this football game. We need our defense to keep on improving. We need them to step up. We need to stop that rush attack because Pete Carroll does like to run the ball.
Except when it matters from the 1 yard line in the Super Bowl with Marshawn Lynch, who's the best running back in the game that year, and they throw the football.
That has to be the biggest bonehead play call in the history of football. Period.
It's in the history of football. It's the worst play call. We complain all the time about play calling. That is the worst play call in the history, maybe of the sport of football. I don't know. Of course, that's a wide range. Any sport, right?
Any sport.
Let's talk real quick though. We're talking a lot about this Bengals offense, Mom. This has been a great week for this Bengals offense because number one. Oh, wait, Eric just threw up here. This is a really good – I got to say this. Eric just said, what about Miami's kneel down? That is actually – no, Miami not kneeling the ball down. We're talking about the University of Miami Hurricanes that decided to run one more play instead of kneeling the ball down. Eric, that's a very good point. That is right up there with Pete Carroll's call in the Super Bowl. Those poor Miami Hurricane fans. Oh man.
I know this is a Bengal pod, but I got to say this. Ryan and Zach, guys I work with at the fire department, they love the U. Oh, those guys were no-show Sunday. They didn't come into work.
I'm sure
God
they
love
didn't.
I love you guys, but I'm sorry. Those guys didn't come in.
Oh my God. I can't even imagine what Hurricane fans are going through. They were undefeated too, right? They were 5-0 or something. Anyway, let's get back to this Bengals offense. It's been a great week for this Bengals offense, Mon. We just found out Joe Burrow wins the FedEx Air Player of the Week, an award that we're kind of used to seeing Mr. Burrow win 3 or 4 times a year these last couple years. And not only that, Jamar Chase wins the AFC Offensive Player of the Week with his 15 receptions, 192 yards, and 3 touchdowns. The 15 receptions, a Bengals single-season game record for most receptions. Obviously, Joe Burrow with 3 touchdowns, over 300 yards throwing the football. Really should have been 4 touchdowns when they called TBs back. But this Bengals offense right now rolling. Honestly, Trey Hendrickson should have been defensive AFC Player of the Week with his 2.5 sacks and dominating performance in that Cardinals game as well. And let's jump real quick to Trey Hendrickson, Mon. He right now is second in the league in sacks with 6. He's tied for second with a couple other handful of guys. TJ Watt, I think, has 8. I think he's the leader with 8. Everyone, there's like a group with 6. And Trey is right there with that group of 6. He right now is having possibly his best year as a pro. Can you imagine if he ends up having a better year than 2 years ago? I mean, this defense is only going to get better.
Yeah, I think Bengals re-upping him, signing him to a 1-year extension is such a bargain. You mentioned that last week. He had a sack called back the other day. He could have had 3.5 sacks in that game. He's just been
I think,
unblockable.
and I think he's had 2 or 3 called back this year.
Yes, he should have 2.5 more sacks. That's what I read, but he had one called back in this game. He's been unblockable. If you actually look, he's really been our only consistent pass rusher this whole season. Everybody else, their win rate's a little low, but he's such a solid pro. I remember, I'm going to go back in time when we signed him. I was excited about it, but not that excited. I thought he was more of a product of a great defense in New Orleans. I was wrong, and I'm glad to be wrong. What a great signing! What a great player! It was a great game against the Cardinals. With the way Chase played and all those targets, that's only going to make the Bengals better because I can guarantee you're going to see a couple DBs on him this Sunday at 1 o'clock. The Seahawks are not going to let Jamar Chase beat us. So guess what? Tyler Boyd's going to have more opportunities. Sheamus is going to have, and 50. He had with 19 targets, 15 receptions. Trenton Irwin's going to have more opportunities. If they call up Tanner Hudson again, so there's going to be a lot of extra opportunities for players on offense. The key is Joe Burrow. He's more mobile. He was locked in. I did listen to a podcast. They said before the game he had that look in his eyes. He was so intense. There was no way he was going to lose this game against the Cardinals, and he didn't. We got Joe back. That's a good thing. And let's get to 3-3. Let's rest up and let's finish strong again like we did last year.
Well, let's talk about getting Joe back because I don't know if you saw today at practice, but another step in the right direction for Mr. Burrow. He's out there during the individual period with the quarterbacks doing off-script throws, and that's something he did a lot and has done a lot these last couple years. He loves to do that during practice. Today's really the first day we've seen that from him where he's dropping back, kind of moving throughout the pocket kind of awkwardly, and then doing those off-script throws, whether it's off the back foot, jump throws, whatever, the kind of stuff that we've seen from him these last 2 years. He's doing that today at practice. Again, another step in the right direction for Joe Burrow. But I want to talk about one of these Bengals over here on defense that I don't think gets enough press, and that is Dax Hill, Maan. Dax Hill has quietly had what some might say right up there. Again, I don't want to take away from Trey Hendrickson, but I think you could argue that Dax Hill is right up there with Trey Hendrickson for defensive MVP right now this season. And again, I know you've talked a lot about Jesse Bates and Von Bell and what we're missing from those guys, and I agree with you. The communication, you can see the lack of communication sometimes, the back end of this Bengals defense. But I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to athleticism and being a football player, Dax Hill, we have not lost a step with Dax Hill replacing Jesse Bates. Dax Hill has been everything that you could possibly want. And as he gets more experience, he's going to be better with that communication part of it. Right now, again, a little lacking back there. But Dax Hill right now, Maan, he's starting to make us forget a little bit about Jesse and Vaughn. I'm going to be honest with you.
No, I agree with you, Jake. I sent out a tweet a few days ago concerning the Bengals defense. They've had their struggles. I mentioned that they were evolving. Some people didn't agree with the word evolving. The point I'm trying to get is this. You just mentioned it. Bates and Bell, amazing players. They were coaches on the field. They knew Lou's defense like the back of their hand. Communication was not a problem with them. Remember, Cheeto was injured last year. They held it together. These young guys like Dax and Tyson Anderson, all these other young DBs that we have, they're trying to figure things out. Dax Hill's athleticism, as you mentioned, is elite level. It's so much better than Bell and Bates. And I think once they get that experience, it is going to take the defense to another level. So it is evolving. And Dax Hill is just the plays he's made. Like, remember where he knifed in the Rams game and he tackled their running back like for a 5-yard loss. It looked like he was shot out of a cannon. It was unbelievable. And, he has 2 interceptions this year. Great future for him. We just got to keep him healthy. We got a lot of young, talented DBs. Cam Taylor, Britt. We saw the interception last week. Fast. DJ Turner, lightning quick, fastest player in the draft. Really impressive. Lou Anarumo does not like to play rookies. He has said that. He's playing him a lot. He's had to because Cheeto's injury. Tough as nails. He's not the biggest guy, but he dislocated that finger, missed one play, came right back in. He is performing at a high level for a rookie. Tell you what, Bengals are doing a good job drafting cornerbacks and getting them ready to play.
Aaron Schatt from NFL tweeted this out. Dax Hill right now is 4th for defensive defeats, right? Where you're talking about defeating your individual guy, making the play. Dax Hill leads all DBs, Maan, safeties and corners with 11 defensive defeats. Every guy ahead of him is either a D lineman or a linebacker, which you expect to see when it comes to defensive defeats. Dax Hill with 11. The top guy is Ed Oliver from the Bills with 14. I'm telling you, man, Dax Hill is going to be a great player for this Bengals team for a very long time. And you talked about Lou not liking to play rookies. We just saw a quote coming out about Jordan Battle, the safety from Alabama, my favorite pick in the draft. He right now is competing with Nick Scott to be a starter on this football team. You're talking about another young guy in that defensive backfield in Jordan Battle, who's going to be a great player for this Bengals team for a very long time, Mom.
Yes, Jake, 10 defensive backs on this roster. We've mentioned it before. 6 of them are rookies or second-year players.
Yes.
That's a young defensive backfield. That's a good problem to have. I know people are like, well, inexperienced. They're young, they're athletic, and they're going to be there for a long time. They're getting better each week. Wait until next year, in the year after. I mean, the Bengals are set up. Lou Anarumo was a defensive back coach before he became a defensive coordinator. They got Burke, Livingston, really solid defensive back coaches. Bengals have done a good job preparing for that. It's a passing league. You have to have strong, fast, athletic defensive backs, and that's what we have.
We do. And again, let's talk right now about the injury report real quick for the Bengals, because we are seeing Cheeto once again not practicing today. Again, he's dealing with an issue. It's going to be interesting to see. He was on the rehab field today. Cheeto was with Chuck Sizzle, who is on IR right now, trying to rehab that hand, that thumb. So you have Cheeto on the rehab field today. Again, hopefully we get him back. Hopefully we get him back this week. I believe that it would be nice to have him back, obviously, with a couple big-time receivers that we're going to talk about here in just a minute from the Seahawks coming into town. Akeem Davis-Gaither, once again, not practicing. He's dealing with a knee issue right now. Going to be interesting to see where he stands if he doesn't, unfortunately, have to go to IR. I think Devin Harper, the linebacker, was the other guy that did not practice today. T. Higgins did practice on a limited basis, which is a good sign. I saw him going through footwork with Jamar Chase at practice today. But all in all, knock on wood, this Bengals team right now going into week 6, pretty damn healthy, which is a good thing, Mon.
It is. It is. The big one is Cheeto, obviously. I mean, we need all hands on deck here.
Yes.
He's such a good player. The Seahawks have a lot of talented players. They have good wide receivers. It would be nice to have him available. I have a feeling it's not going to happen. I think the Bengals might rest him and T, just getting them ready for that 49er game. Hope I'm wrong. But relatively, I mean, we are healthy. That's a positive thing. We have been for about the last couple of years, and we had some big injuries last year, but nothing really. We overcame them. Let's put it that way. Cheeto's the big one, obviously, and hopefully he practices later on this week. And I would like to see him suit up because, like I said earlier, we're about to go through the Seahawks roster. They got a good team. They got a really good team, and we have to be ready for them.
Well, let's talk about the Seahawks offense first. Mon, this is an offense right now led by Geno Smith, a very interesting guy, right? A guy that was kind of thrown by the wayside and last year comes out and has a solid year, actually earned himself some pretty good money in the offseason. Geno Smith been playing very well for this Seahawks team. He is a little banged up, Mon, right now. I would expect him to play, but he is banged up. We saw Drew Lock come in for him last week. But Geno Smith, he's questionable right now. 3 of the Seahawks offensive linemen, starting offensive linemen, are all questionable in Haynes, Lewis, and Cross. That whole left side of the Seahawks offensive line banged up right now, Mon. Those guys are all questionable. So this Seahawks team, just like a lot of the other teams we played, coming in with a banged up offensive line, which hopefully has Sam Hubbard and Mr. Trey Hendrickson licking their chops. The guys we got to talk about, though, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I remember when Tyler Lockett came out, I wanted the Bengals to draft him. I liked Tyler Lockett a lot coming out. He has become a very good football player for this Seahawks team. And, of course, DK Metcalf is just an absolute beast. Kenneth Walker, I got to see him quite a bit last week watching the Seahawks game. He's kind of a straight up runner, which you like to see. Bengals just got to get a lot of hats to the football on him, but he is a tough runner, a downhill type of guy. Mon, this Seahawks offense, what problems do you see them causing this Bengals defense?
Like I said, they're very similar to the Ravens. The article on Bengals.com even mentioned that. They run the ball. Kenneth Walker, you mentioned him. Charbonnet, the rookie from UCLA. Pete Carroll loves to run the ball. They're going to limit possessions. That the Bengals, that has been their Achilles heel on defense, stopping the run. We know what they're going to do. You mentioned injuries on the offensive line. Well, we had the same problem in Tennessee, and Tennessee ran the ball down our throat.
Yes.
DJ Reader, this defensive line needs to step up and control that line of scrimmage. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, great players. The rookie from Ohio State, Smith Enigma, whatever his name is. Noah Fant, the tight end. No real big explosive plays from DK Metcalf. His longest reception this year is 34 yards. Tyler Lockett, who you mentioned, spectacular player. His longest reception this year is 23 yards.
Yes.
Let's keep it. We don't want those numbers to get bigger this week. They're a run-first team. They want to run, get some play action passes, probably get a long pass here and there. Bengals got to be ready for that. We just have to control that line of scrimmage. Kenneth Walker is such a good player. And Charbonnet, somebody I wanted to draft. Really, Pete Carroll, I think he learned his lesson from the Super Bowl. He's going to run. We got to be ready for it.
And you said it, right now the most explosive player on this Seahawks offense is Noah Fant, right? He's got 11 receptions for 160 yards. He's averaging 16 yards a reception. The next closest guy is DK Metcalf with 14.9. So Noah Fant, the tight end, we haven't seen – 10 receptions for 160 yards.
Yeah.
So, I mean, again, this is another tight end that we have to make sure that we get hands on coming off the line of scrimmage. But he is a weapon too, Noah Fant. Again, coming with that big tray with Drew Lockett from the Denver Broncos to the Seattle Seahawks. So, again, guys that we really have to look at. But this defense, let's talk about this Seahawks defense right now. They give up a lot of points and a lot of yards. They've been in some shootouts, Mon. They gave up this. Let me just throw some stats out there real quick for you. This Seahawks defense has given up to the Rams. Nakua, who obviously has become a very good wide receiver, and Atwell, both with 119 yards receiving, totaling 16 receptions between the two of them in their game, a game that they won against the Seattle Seahawks to start the season. Amon St. Brown from the Detroit Lions, 6 receptions, 102 yards. Josh Reynolds with 5 catches, 70 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen with 11 receptions for 45 yards from the Carolina Panthers. DJ Chark, 4 receptions for 90 yards. So again, my point is this Seahawks defensive backfield, it's got some big names, right? Diggs, Adams, those guys are good football players, but they have given up a lot of yards through the air for a Bengals offense right now, a passing offense that hopefully is accelerating and getting better. Maybe Joe Burrow's licking his chops a little bit, Mon, for Sunday.
After reading those stats, I could see where you would think that. And yeah, those numbers are pretty alarming if you're a Seahawk fan. They had that really bad first game against the Rams. The Rams really laid the wood to them there, 30-13, I think was that score. Some of the other games were, they had a nice little lead, and some of these teams are playing catch up. And that's where these stats, maybe elevated a little bit. But 11 for 145 for Thielen is alarming. If you're Tyler Boyd, if you're a Jamar Chase, you look at that and you go, wow, man, I can get that. We'll see. They got some good players on defense. We're going to, Bobby Wagner, their defensive backs at Witherspoon had that 100-yard interception return against the Giants. Good player from Illinois. I think he was a top 5 pick. Tariq Woolen, I think he was from UTEP. I remember I wanted the Bengals to consider him. He really did good in the pre-draft process last year. He's like 6'2", 6'3", playing really good for them. They got really good players. They have formidable players on defense. The Bengals have to be ready. I just want a repeat of last week. I want to control the clock, and I want that time of possession to be at the 36, 37-minute mark. That's where we need to have it. I don't want them to limit our possessions. I want to limit theirs. So hopefully the Bengals can do that.
I agree. And you talk about some of those players. I don't know if you watched that Giants game. You talked about it off air. We kind of talked about it. They had 11 sacks versus the Giants. Now, the Giants' offensive line is terrible. And honestly, I watched the majority of that game. It looks like the Giants are playing a completely different sport right now. They're just absolutely abysmal. Just terrible football right now from the New York Giants. So it's hard to take anything from that game. Really is, to be honest with you, because the Giants are just playing so bad. But 11 sacks is 11 sacks. That's a lot of sacks, right? So they're going to bring pressure. You and I have talked about that off air. This Bengals offensive line is going to have their best game of the season on Sunday because of all the pressure this team brings. And again, just to go through, you have multiple guys with more than 1 sack. Bobby Wagner, Brooks, the other linebacker, both with 2 sacks. Witherspoon, the cornerback, 2 sacks. Jaron Reed, a guy that you really like, with 2 sacks, although he is kind of banged up right now. Their other linebacker, Nuaso, he's got 2 sacks. Mafi, another linebacker, with 2 sacks. So, again, what does that tell you, Mon? That tells you that this team brings a lot of pressure from a lot of different areas on the field. They are going to blitz the Bengals like crazy. And this Bengals team, this offensive line is going to have to step up and play their best game. And on that note, I do want to say Joe Burrow came out today and he talked about how great of a season Joe Mixon is having. But I think the most important thing that he said was that Joe Mixon, as well as he's played this year, he is extremely gotten a ton better at pass pro, at pass blocking. Joe Burrow threw out there that Joe Mixon right now is blocking his ass off. And that's a good thing, Mon. This Bengals offense is going to need it this week because the Seahawks are going to bring a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I think I read a nice stat. Joe Burrow was 11 for 13 passing during when he was blitzed last week against the Cardinals. The Seahawks have better personnel on defense than the Cardinals. 11 sacks against a bad Giant team. It doesn't matter. That's impressive. Our offensive line really picked it up last week in the second half. We got to continue that. Joe had a clean pocket. And what happened? We win by 14 on the road, which is hard to do. Need to continue that. playing at Paycor, as I mentioned earlier. We got 12 games remaining, counting this one, 7 at home. We got to be 7-0 when the season ends
Yes.
at home, remaining games. That's
Yes.
got to happen. Everybody that's at Paycor this week, I wish I was, loud, intimidate them Seahawks. We need you to step up.
Well, I mean, you figure, let's say the Bengals can, run off, 7 wins at home here coming up, which they can do. I don't think there's any doubt about that, because you figure they're going to steal a couple on the road, right? Again, their schedule tough, but not you wouldn't say too tough down the road where they can't steal a couple road games. But agreed with you 100%. This Bengals team, they've got to win on Sunday. They have got to really try to run the stretch out at home and win these home games, because right now Paycor has become a place that teams don't really want to play, and that's a good thing. So yes, Maan and I cannot be there this weekend, so we need all of you Bengal fans that are going, be loud, disrupt this Seahawks offense, and bring us home that win. We're going to get to predictions here in a minute, Maan, but again, I just feel this Bengals offense is hitting a different level, and I really think this is a game that the Bengals are going to once again win by 2 scores. But we'll get to predictions right now. Let's talk first about the Ravens at Titans. Although it is not in Tennessee, it is in London. So it's gonna be a fun Sunday, right? Because you and I love watching the AFC North teams get beat. So this is at 9:30 in the morning, Sunday morning in London. Ravens at Titans. Maan, can we talk, just like we talked to Steeler being the Ravens last week into existence, can we talk the Titans being the Ravens into existence? What do you think?
I would love for that to happen. It's odd being in London. It's like a true neutral, feeling. No home field advantage. Both teams coming off a loss. That's going to be a tough one. I just don't see the Ravens losing 2 in a row. I think the Titans match up well against them. The Titans play good defense. I know last week the Colts ran up and down the field against them, but before that, the Titans were really good against the rush. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm going to pick the Ravens on this one. I think the Ravens are going to win a slugfest. It's going to be like 17-13 Ravens.
All right, you're going to leave it up to my hands again. I picked the Colts to beat the Ravens. That happened. I picked the Steelers to beat the Ravens. That happened. And I'm going to pick the Tennessee Titans to beat the Ravens. Again, I think it's going to be a slugfest. Don't forget, Maan, I picked the Steelers to beat the Ravens 17-14 last week. It was 17-10. I also picked Jamar Chase to score the first touchdown of that game, which happened. So I'm about to help all of us and say the Titans are going to win this football game 20-17. Go Titans. We need you very, very badly to win this game. Cleveland 49ers. The 49ers travel to Cleveland in a game that I don't think is going to be close. But, Maan, I want to hear what you have to think. 49ers at Browns. Who's going to win?
Yeah, 49ers are easily I think they're the best team in football right now. Watching them the other night, they're very impressive. They got a hell of a team. We don't know if the Browns quarterback is going to play. Playing in Cleveland is always tough. I think it's going to be a close one. I got 34-17 49ers.
When you say close one, 17
points. I know. I'm trying to be funny. Okay. Trying to be funny. Okay. 34-17 49ers.
You said that with such a straight face because you're just exuberating Johnny Cash tonight. So
I was waiting for you to say something. 34-17.
All right. Well, I'm going to say it's not even going to be that close, Maan. I'm going to say 49ers 42, Browns 10 in an absolute destruction. in the factory of sadness. The 49ers are the best team in football right now, and the Cleveland Browns are going to be reeling. Like you said, Watson might not even play in this game. Even if Watson plays, the 49ers are going to absolutely destroy the Browns 42-10. All right, here we go. Bengals, Seahawks. The Seahawks come to Paycor, to the jungle. Maan, who you got? Seahawks, Bengals.
Paycor Stadium, Bengals do not lose. I think the defense is going to come up with a couple more turnovers. I see the Bengals winning 38-21 over the Seahawks. It's going to be another convincing win. They're going to go in with a 2-game win streak, winners of 3 of 4. Bengals are going to go into that second part of their season on a high. Bengals will be 3-3 at 4 o'clock on Sunday.
I agree. I'm going to say Bengals win 35-17. Again, I think it is a game that the Bengals kind of run away with at the end, right? The same thing we kind of saw in that Cardinals game. I think it'll be a close game through halftime, and the Bengals just have the horses, and they kind of carry themselves past the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to be honest with you. I see a big game for Joe Mixon this week. I think this is a game we talked about all the stats that the Seahawks defense has given up through the air, and we know Joe Burrow's feeling it right now. But I just have a feeling that this is going to be a Joe Mixon game. I don't know what it is, but I think Joe Mixon is going to go for 100 yards and probably 2 touchdowns in this game, and the Bengals win convincingly and go into the bye 3-3. And if everything happens like we say so, Maan, that puts the Ravens at 3-3, the Bengals at 3-3, and the Cleveland Browns at 2-3. The Pittsburgh Steelers, obviously, with the week off right now, the Bengals are sitting good going into the bye. If the Browns and the Ravens lose and the Bengals win, not only are we feeling it, but Mom, we're right in the mix of this AFC North. It's got to happen, right? It's got to happen.
Jake, how crazy is football? Remember last week, I texted you about 2 o'clock. I'm like, man, my take on the Steelers was horrible. Because they just look so bad.
Terrible.
And they ended up winning, and they're in first place. It's just football's crazy. Football's crazy. But, we'll see.
Put the Steelers are 3-2. So the Steelers 3-2. Bengals and Ravens 3-3, the Browns at 2-3. That is what the AFC North is going to look like. I'm telling you, at Sunday at 4. Sunday at 4, that's what the AFC North is going to look like. All right, guys, that is another edition of the Bengals Pulse. As always, if you like this podcast, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Make sure you check us out on all the awesome podcast platforms, Apple, Stitcher, Spotify. As always, if you like this podcast, give Maan and I that 5-star review. We very much appreciate that. Follow Maan at the Fire Maan on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Coach Jake Owens 9. Follow Eric, our producer, on Twitter at eFlash with 2 H's 88. Follow the Bengals Pulse on Twitter at Bengals_Pulse 9 on Instagram. The same without the at Bengals_Pulse 9. And as always, check out all the awesome podcasts right here on the Wincinnati Podcast Network. Mom, before we go, really quick, your favorite Johnny Cash song. Go.
Oh, man. Ring of Fire. Oh, I just like it. I know it's in the remake of the 9 Inch Nails song towards the end of his life was really cool too.
Oh, that was cool. Yeah, I like the remakes that he did. I'm gonna go. I love Folsom Prison and A Boy Named Sue. I like A Boy Named Sue. That's a great one too. All right, guys. As always, he is Maan. I am Jake. This is the Bengals Pulse. Hooday, Bengal fans. We will talk to you on Sunday after a Bengal victory.
See you guys.